Hello and welcome to this live stream. I'm going to start doing more live streams on YouTube, but a slightly different format than I normally do. That's not necessarily a full demonstration, although I may do one on this demo as well. That's more of an insight to other stuff as well. So it's I've not scripted it or anything, so it probably will be a bit messy, but we'll give it our best shot. I am going live later today, actually at 6 p.m. French time, for a couple of full demos for my members. But my plan for this, so this is actually not a live video. This is a replay of a live stream I did a while ago. I've got a few of these, but I'm reloading them onto YouTube as normal videos because they then get the translations. Because I know a lot of you who follow me are non-English speaking, so you can then hopefully it will get translated. Not all the videos do, but hopefully this one will. There is a live section on my channel, so you can check out the other live videos I've done, and I will do more lives in the future as and when time permits. But I'm currently building a beginner's course on my website for oil painting and for watercolors, so that's taking a bit of time at the moment. So don't forget to check the links in the description, hit the like and subscribe, and hopefully enjoy this live stream. And you can drop me a comment because I'll obviously get those comments as I check the video. Demo, or this episode, we'll call this episode 1, that for the future I plan to perhaps try and do almost a daily live stream on YouTube if I could, but I won't promise a daily one as yet, but we'll go for an occasional one and build up to that. So thanks Jean for commenting that it does help the YouTube algorithm to say let's share this live stream to other people. I didn't really give much notice because I only decided to do this live stream about 30 minutes ago. But if you're watching live, put a comment in there. You can just say hi or new to the channel, whatever, or if you're an existing member. So what we're doing today, let's have a look. So top one is a Edward Seago painting, and I'm not going to paint the whole scene, and the reason for that is, if you can see that cowboy in the distance there, that's a watercolor I did the other day. That's Rip. The demo above, the painting at the top there is a Seago painting, and I quite like it from the point of view of the amount of light that is in there, but I don't necessarily want to paint the whole scene, and I think if you're a beginner that's probably a little bit intimidating. So I'm going to show you a short video on how to paint the bridge, how to get that nice fluid wash in the shadow on the left, and the trees, and maybe some figures. And then the bottom one is, let me switch this other screen, and I'll show you some things that have been going on as well. Right, let's move that out of the way. Wrong page. There we go. In my sketchbook, I've got quite a few little sketches I've done or just messing about with watercolor, and I've started to stick these in my sketchbook now because they're quite nice. So rather than throw them away, that I'll put them in there. And this was actually an oil painting I did actually on location, but at the end of the demo or the end of this episode, if we've got time, I might just do a quick little sketch of that in watercolor. But you should have a sketchbook, I think. You know, I've got several on the go which I put stuff in, and it's quite handy if you've got stuff that you're not that happy with, that you can just stick something over the top of it. So this one's actually got a lot of oils in, although these are watercolors. That's our camper van. I know I've showed this before on demos, but a lot of you perhaps haven't seen in them. But so this has got a lot of oil painting in it, so more for my oil channel maybe. We're going to do watercolors today, so don't worry. We'll put that to one side. So that's what we're going to be doing. So that's what I'm going to show you: how to paint that bridge, how to paint the get this nice fluid wash, how to handle the trees, and how to paint some figures. So also I'll talk to you a little bit about, which I can do now, my technique. But those of you who've been following me for a while will know what I do. This is a painting I did recently. That was my reference image. What I quite often do is I turn it to a no-tan. This is actually not quite technically a no-tan, because no-tan is just black and white, but there are maybe 3 or 4 values in here. But it clearly shows the value pattern, and I quite often do that and share these with members on my website. And you can see here the darkest dark against the lightest light, which is why this stands out here. So I do that with a lot of my videos, and I quite often provide traceables as well. That was done on a live stream for members. quite happy with that one, how that came out. And I do lots of master studies. So again, a lot of you who've been following me for a while will know all of this, but the YouTube algorithm tells me probably about 75% people who watch my videos are seeing it for the first time. So telling you a little bit about what I do. And a lot of the techniques I'm going to use in doing this little demo for you were used in this painting that I did on a live stream. So it's worth learning to do these things because you'll need them to do on a full painting. So let's watch the first part here, which was a pre-recorded part. So let me find the right page. So don't forget to put any comments you might have in. So first we look at the color palette and we can see very muted colors on here. And then let's have a look at the edges we've got here. We've got a good combination of hard edges. We've got soft edges in here. We've got lots of strong contrast, dark against light in here, dark against light here. And it's this strong contrast of dark against light that gives it this sunshine look to the painting. How did he achieve the soft edges here? We'll have a go at painting that and see if we can recreate that. How did he create the effect of the texture on the bark? We'll have a go at that. And how did he create this nice fluid wash that starts quite bluey purple here and ends up reddy purple here without any lines? So we'll have a go at that as well. Apologies for my messy line. So that was the first part where I was just talking about what appeals to me on the painting. So now I shall play the painting part, and I say if you have any questions, just put them in the comments. It's only a short video, and then we'll get on and do something else. Let's go back to that page. So I've used a mixture of ultramarine blue and some alizarin crimson, but you'll notice it's very watery. That I need to have the brush nicely loaded up. This is a Sable Blend brush I'm using. So it holds a lot of water, and that's what you need. And I'm keep reloading the brush, and see I'm loading that bead. And the reason for this is that you need it to be very fluid, because if you have to do it in several hits, it's going to look very bitty, and there will be lots of brush marks in it, which is not what you want. In shadows, it's just a blanket of different color on the floor, isn't it? So that's what we're trying to achieve here. And I've just added a little bit of red because I noticed, as we spoke earlier, that Seago transitioned from a sort of bluey purple to more of a reddy purple. And by having that bead and doing it wet into wet, you can't see where the transition is. It's the watercolor is doing its thing. It's melting into each other. And I'm not trying to replicate Seago's marks there, just doing my own. And you'll notice I've got a little puddle gathering at the top there, and that happens when you have a bead, which if I left it, that would cause a run back. So I just dry my brush off and just mop it up. Simple as that. So now we'll mix a slightly darker version of that purple. Again, colour's not that important really, it's the tonal values when you come to look at painting. That if my bridge was slightly more yellow than his or more purple, it's not going to be the end of the world. So again, a nicely loaded up brush, and try and cover the area in as minimal brush marks as possible. I think I obviously decided I needed a little bit more purple than blue there, so I just added a bit of red. But by loading up the brush and putting plenty of water and pigment on your paper, it gives you time to make a little change if you need to, because as long as you've got that bead, it's not going to dry out. And bear in mind, I am using Saunders & Waterford 140-pound knot, 100% cotton paper, and that makes all the difference when painting in this loose style. So here we're painting on the bridge that's already had a stain of yellow ochre and it's dried. So now I can get a hard edge because I'm painting on dry paper and painting those shadows, which is just an illusion of light on that bridge. And then I can just water down my mix slightly to make it slightly lighter in value, and then paint that bridge reflection in the water there. So I say I'm not going for the whole painting here, just the idea is that, to say, if you're a beginner, you could have a go at this. You don't need to paint the whole thing. You just want to learn these techniques. So I'm just replicating what's going on above, underneath, and maybe even suggesting the bridge or the tunnel further ahead. Well, it's a bridge in the tunnel, isn't it? And again, lighter in value because it's a long way away, and painting the reflection at the same time. Lift a little bit of paint off. I noticed on Seago's he had a bit of light hitting the bridge there. Maybe he did that. We don't know. But that's what's quite good about doing these master studies, or looking closely at paintings that you admire and try and figure out what did he do there to create that mark. And that's what I'm doing here. So very thick paint now to get that shadow under the arch there on the bridge. So not a lot of water, a lot of paint. And I use tube paints to get these nice strong darks. And then put it in there. And I'm painting wet into wet, although I painted onto dry paper, but the bridge is still damp. So that will give me a soft edge. And again, we discussed earlier that we've got a combination of edges in this painting. So my arch is not particularly great there, but I can modify it slightly while the paper is damp. But it's just an exercise. At the end of the day, don't worry too much. And I can just take a dry brush, which again I've just dipped it in my water jar, dried it with a tissue, and then I can just manipulate that edge that bled into there a little bit too much. And things like that in watercolour happen all the time. The thing is, don't panic. You could normally sort it out by just making less of it, but the mistake is to try and do a huge fix on it. It's there, it doesn't matter. If you look through Seago's paintings, you'll find lots of little things like that happened, but he skillfully just let them be or change them into something else to make it part of the painting. And that's a lot of what watercolour is all about. So I decided to go a little bit darker there. And don't be afraid to say change your mind. It's easier to go darker than it is lighter in watercolour. And suggestion of detail. And that's what I really like about Seago's work, that it's always just a suggestion. Nothing's too literal, but very accurately done. Again, I'm lifting paint off there, and that's by using a dried brush. It's not completely dry, it's just damp. So I'm just controlling how much water and pigment is on the paper. Again, just putting a few marks in to suggest and connecting a few things up there. Perhaps some steps there, maybe. And sometimes it's just a mark, putting a mark into a lighter area to give a bit of contrast somewhere. So thicker paint again here for a dark. Just as the bridge meets the water, you often get a little darker area there, and that also signifies that it's a bridge on water there. So that's the bridge, that suffices. So that's worked quite well. Just last few little touches, but I say it's just an exercise. Don't worry too much, just enjoy it. Doing these little exercises, there should be no pressure. And that's what destroys watercolour, is lack of confidence. So doing these little things will really build your confidence. So next we'll have a go at perhaps one of these trees and see how we painted those. So I'm going to take a gamble that the paper is dry on the left where I did those shadows. That probably would be a safer bet to dry it, but it's just about dry enough. A little bit of bleeding, there's damp, but sometimes that can be quite good because again it's connecting the tree to the floor as well by letting it bleed in slightly. So again, the more you can do that in one brush mark, the better. But obviously, you are going to do a few brush marks. And if you dab, always just turn the tissue over so you don't mark the paper where you don't want it to be marked. So that's perhaps a little bit of texture on the tree there. I don't think he necessarily did that, but I thought it'd be quite good. And that's what you can do with these master studies. You don't have to follow everything exactly. You can improvise and put some of your own marks into it. And then just a bit of burnt sienna, a bit of neutral tint to create a dark. So slightly thicker paint, because we don't want to be adding any more water to this because you'll dilute the paint what's there. So we're adding slightly thicker paint, but we are painting wet into wet. So that's going to create a soft edge. But because I'm using quite thick paint, it's not going to move about too much. So we won't get we won't lose the shapes we're putting in. Just drying it off there. And then the other trees. And they tend to be slightly thicker at the bottom, but not massively. These trees here, they're quite sort of straight up and down. And they are getting slightly thinner and perhaps lighter in value as they get further away, and less detail. And that's, you know, a tool that artists have used for generations to make things look further away. Again, putting a few darker marks in there to suggest that the bark and the texture on the tree. And with branches, you don't need to paint every branch, just a suggestion. One or two is all what's needed. So let's have a look at how perhaps he painted those branches and the leaves. So I'm using yellow ochre in that mix of whatever colour was there. You know, don't ask me how I mix these colours. People do all the time, but it's impossible to give you the exact mixes. But it's just a earthy looking green. So notice how I'm using the side of the brush, not too much water on there. So we're creating this dry brush effect. And this works quite well on the Saunders and Waterford knot paper, and same with Archers. As long as it's a not a smooth textured paper, you'll get that effect. And it was actually a little bit lighter underneath, which you would normally paint the lighter ones first, but you know, you can do it. I just diluted the paint with a bit of water. And I think he did do it just like that, just a bit of dry brush, just a suggestion. This painting is about the light, not the leaves, you know, how detailed the leaves are. And he's just painting the masses, concentrating on tonal value, the lighter and the darker areas. Maybe just make a little bit more of that branch. And you can just suggest one or two leaves just at the outer edge, and that works really well to give the illusion of detail. You know, and I use that method in my paintings quite often. So let's have a look at see how he painted the figures. We'll put one on the bridge. Really simple. Again, it's not a painting about people. It's the whole scene of light, shadows, and there's the figure. You know, that's enough. So if you've got a crowd of people, I'd imagine this is kind of how he painted them, because they look very loose. I'd imagine he painted this on location. So he's just responding to the shapes. So the bodies, a suggestion of a head or two. Make a few slightly bigger coming towards you, but the head heights are all much on the same level. So, you know, people are taller and shorter, and children and so on. And then quite often just a little shadow underneath just to anchor them to the ground. And these are the sort of practices you should be doing. You know, practice your uprights. It could be a lamppost or something. You know, be confident with them. And just practice painting figures daily if you need to. I did, and just get to the point where you're just confident, get the overall shape, and you'll get to know what works, and you'll soon realize they don't have to be perfect. A suggestion is all you need. When people are moving and walking, limbs are flying all over the place, so it's fine. And again, a bit of a shadow. So there we go. So there you go. That's a little bit of an explanation of how those elements were painted in the scene. And if you have a look at this painting here, you can see where I've used those elements, and that's how I learned to paint watercolor, by doing master studies and looking at what they'd painted and try to practice it. So you can see here the side of that building there. That was painted exactly the same way as the bridge. The lighter area was painted first, although I did do a little wash over that in the end. But the lighter area was painted first, and then like the bridge, a nice clean wash on here. The figures, slightly more detailed with a bit of colour on the t-shirts and so on, but let's zoom in a little bit. Painted exactly the same way. The figures, dot for the head, the body, no arms sticking out, legs, had a bit of movement. Same with the shadow here. I try and keep it a nice fluid wash, some gentle transitions of colour. Trees, fill in the masses, a few darker and lighter areas, and then like in here, just a few little bits added out on there. So that's how we learn. There's no point trying to reinvent the wheel, but look at artists who inspire you. And what I would possibly do different on this painting, actually, let's just show you that on a recent demo, again, Edward Seago, we painted the tree this way, whereas on this demo, which if you want to watch this demo, it's on my membership, it will be on YouTube in the future, that I used the brush, this one here, find it, this stiff brush here, which I just make damp, and then while this area was damp, I just pulled the paint out to get this lighter value here. But that creates a bit of a soft edge, which sometimes is good, but I think if I'd done it like this, where I'd actually negatively painted the shapes between the tree and left a hard edge here, it perhaps would have a bit more power. So there's two ways you could have done that, and it's good to know how to do these things. So if you're a beginner, you don't have to paint the whole scene. You can just paint elements on it. And same with these recent demos that I've done on memberships. If you think this is a little bit overwhelming to do the whole thing, just paint that rock, or just paint the background. You could do that. And same with this one here. Just have a go at painting this area. You could crop just an element of the scene and have a go at that, and build up to doing the whole scene. So we'll do another little demo, a little short one, and I'll have a go at recreating this scene here, but just on a small piece of paper, and just keep it nice and simple. So if you are watching live, give me a comment. It says 5 of you are here watching at the moment, so drop me a comment, and if you watch the replay later, you can put a comment in as well. But before we do this little demo, I shall just show you, for those who are new to the channel and never sort of come across my channel before, let's go to another screen here, and let's go to my website. So this is my About Me page on my website, and I'll just talk to you a little bit about my memberships as well. So I've got to get an advert in here as well, you see. So Robert Mee, that's me. I'm originally from the picturesque, rugged Cornish coast in the UK, and I'm here with my wife now in France, in the Berry region, and it's right bang smack in the middle of France, so it's not too hot, but it's not too cold, so it's just right for us. And I've been painting for over 20 years. I am self-taught, but I've not been to art school or anything like that, and I think I've learned the hard way by making mistakes, and I've never been into art critiques or anything like that, so I've only ever critiqued my own artwork, and I'll talk about that on other episodes, perhaps my views on critiques and whether they're worth having or not, or you can do it yourself. So I started my YouTube channel quite a few years ago, but just as a bit of a hobby. I made my living from selling artwork, but now it's turned around that I just now make videos. I don't really concentrate on selling artwork, although I do have artwork for sale on my website. So about my memberships, and this is on my homepage of my website if you want to read it in full. But basically, so website memberships. Welcome to a place where you can grow as an artist, being deeply inspired by artists like Edward Seago and John Singer Sargent, both masters of loose and expressive brushwork. And quite interesting, they both painted oils and watercolors, which I think is why I really like those two artists. I try to bring that same freedom and freshness into both my own paintings and my teaching. My teaching style is relaxed, encouraging, and completely jargon-free. And I get told that all the time in comments that they enjoy my videos because it is just the basic skills you need. There's no jargon. I don't go into all of that nonsense. So whether you're picking up the brush for the first time or returning to painting after a break, you'll find lessons easy to follow and full of practical tips. This little art school of mine is run by just two people, so it's just myself and my wife, Kate. Kate's very supportive in what I do, which is important if you're an artist. You need people behind you. So my mission is simple. I want to help as many people as I can to enjoy painting and gain confidence to be able to pick up that paintbrush and enjoy it. So through my step-by-step tutorials in watercolors and oil painting, and so most of my videos, as you know, if you've been following for a while, are start to finish, not just the sort of showing you the end result. So you can see the painting go from start to finish. So if you join my membership, just bear in mind it's not a mentorship program. I don't offer one-to-one feedback or critiques. As my time is devoted to creating tutorials for a wide audience with over 2 million views per year and growing number of members, I focus on sharing as much knowledge as I can in a way that's affordable and accessible. And that's what I really want to do, is make as many videos as I can and get as much information out for as many people as possible. And my pricing structure goes from free. You can watch them for free on YouTube like this. You can offer a support, or you can join the membership, which is I think currently €15 a month, which gives access to everything. So it's great value for money, and you can do it month by month and do it as long as you want. And I think it is great value for money, and it shows because I've got members who've been with me for a long time, and I can see that artwork has really improved. So the friendly members, we've also got a members forum, which is a great place to mix with other artists and share your artwork. But again, I don't critique artwork, which, to be fair, let me just go to another screen. To be fair, why is that? Just bear with me a second. Get rid of that. To be fair, I don't offer critiques because I don't think it's necessary. That for most of the time, if you are a beginner, you just need to paint more. And that should be your first critique when you've done a painting, to say, okay, I don't like it. It's not very good. What do I need to improve on? That's your first question. Are you painting regularly? If you're only painting once a month or just every now and again, that's why you're not improving. You need to be turning up to the easel, paper, whatever you want to call it, regularly. But you can ask yourself, when you've done your painting, which I'll do on other episodes, I shall critique some of my own artwork. I don't mind critiquing my own artwork, but you've also got to be quite sensitive to people that, not everyone likes to have their artwork picked apart. So, they may ask for a critique, but when you actually give it to them, you can offend people. Because if you are a beginner, there's probably a lot wrong with it. There was a lot wrong with my artwork when I was a beginner, and even now as an experienced artist, there's a lot wrong with my artwork. But we'll talk about that more in future. So where were we? Let's back to screen. So this is the membership part of the website. So if you are a member of Tier 2 on my Watercolours membership, which you can join on the website, this is what the membership page looks like. So we have access to videos in 2023, 2024. I've got a lot of videos to add to those categories. Everything I've done in this year is on here. So let's have a little look what you get on here. And the reason why I moved away from Patreon, is that it's much easier to find the demos on here. You know, we can categorize them, lakes, rivers, etc., and you know, they're much easier to find. So this is a recent demo we did. So you can watch the video there, and if you want to watch it in full screen, you just hover over this little icon here and it'll make it full screen. And down here, what I've done is we've got photo references here, click here, and then I post also on the forum. So you can click here, and this is just on the later videos I've started to do this. So you can then see what the comments are, and you can share your version of it as well. So if you click on photos, it takes you to this page where you can then download these to print off. So quite often I provide a traceable. Now I know everyone that not everyone wants to draw them freehand. Normally on the workshops I draw them freehand, but quite often I'll trace myself. It speeds things up. So there's the actual painting. That was the reference I used, and also we've got the notan down here, and then obviously there's lots and lots of demos. So let's come out of that page. And so back to this page. So on here we've got the members forum, so you can access the members forum here. You can click on here to buy some artwork if you're in the mood. So normally on here I put the latest videos that I've done, which you can quick access to watch those. And then down here we've got a contacts page, so you can contact me. But again, you know, it's not a mentorship program. You know, I don't have time to give one-to-one tuition to everybody. That I just wouldn't have time to make videos. So I try to put as much information in my videos as I can. But you know, feel free to reach out if you have any questions, and if I can answer them, I will. And we've got details on the next workshop, and the workshop is here. Let's click on that. So that was actually last month's workshop. I've not updated the details as yet, which I will do soon. So that's what we painted on the last workshop. And the idea with the workshop is that I paint a lot slower. So the idea is that you can follow along. I do forget sometimes, but I try to keep it as slow as possible, and I go really into depth with the tutorials. So later today at 6 p.m. French time, we'll be going live to paint these two scenes. So we've got a market stall here in Saint-Tut in France, and then a misty woodland. So I quite like painting these sort of scenes. So I do paint a wide range of subjects, and this is done through Google Meet. You don't need to download anything, but you can download the Google Meet app on your phone if you watch it on your phone. I think probably a lot of time it's already there anyway, the app. So all you do is click join, and then you can talk on the live stream with me if you want. I only record my cameras and my microphone, so you won't be on YouTube, don't worry. And if you want to watch look at the reference pictures, if you want to have a go at painting along, they're all here. So again, I'll talk about this on the actual demo, and there's a traceable as well if you want to have a go at that. So that's my website. There we go. So let me just switch to this camera here, and we'll do a demo. Right. Okay, so let's find some paper. So I've got some Saunders and Waterford paper. Put that where I can see it. It's, you know, a good idea to get things also, you know, in an area where you can reach them. And ideally, if you have an area that you can set up and leave with your watercolor setup, is great, you know, because if you've got to set it all up, it's quite stressful. You want it to be relaxed, and if you do have to set it up somewhere, get it all set up, go and have a cup of tea, chill out, and then hit your painting, you know, in a relaxed mood. And you need to be relaxed to paint confidently, because if you're stressed, it will show in your artwork. And you've got to approach these paintings as if you don't care. Obviously you do care, but if you're worried about it failing, it probably will fail. So I was going to try and keep this live stream to half an hour, but we're going to be slightly over, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. So let's put up a reference picture. Probably get rid of that chat for a moment. No one has put a chat in as yet, or Jean has, but we've got another camera on the go here for the palette. And I'll address the question I get asked daily. Please let us know what colours you're using. It won't help you, honestly. Positioned. So let's get a reference picture up as well. And there we go. So this is my new layout where I've got 2 cameras on the go, so I can get closer to the paper and then show the palette separately as well. So we'll leave me on there. It's more personal with me on there, I think. We'll do a little sketch. I don't normally include the sketch on my videos because I don't think it's perhaps people find it that particularly exciting, but it'll be a quick sketch. So there's the land, goes across here, and this is on scrap paper. And I honestly, even though I'm live here, I don't mind if it doesn't work. I'm just going to have a bit of fun, and I encourage you to do the same, to relax. I know for years I can remember approaching watercolors feeling really stressed. I know this is not going to work, and often they didn't. Whereas now, if I just relax and paint, enjoy it, I have a lot more success. So this is Chachignol village off in the distance here in France. There's the church spiral. So this scene is not about the landscape, it's all about this house here. So there's a little sketch there. That's all we need. I'll take a quick photo of it, and I can share that on the members forum, which you're welcome to use as a traceable. And something else I do, I'll show you an app I've got on my phone. Just bear with me a second. So it's called Notanizer. It looks like that. I think it's a yin yang, it's called, isn't it? That you can pull your photo into the app, and then if I go to Notan, it turns it into a black and white image, and you can scroll this adjuster here and just change it. And what that does, it actually gives you an idea of the structure of the painting, the design of it. And I can see that's quite a strong design, that even just in black and white we can clearly see that's a house and there's some trees behind it. And you can then change it to 3 values, which I find is quite useful. And you can play about with the values on it, and that's 4 values. And what this does, it's quite useful to see that what is the lightest value in that scene, the sky, and the light on the side of this building is not as bright as the sky, you can see that. And it varies for different images how useful that is, but I use it a lot. So let's give this a go. Have a look. So don't forget to drop me a comment. It really does help. And if you've got a question, fire a question at me. Right. Quick sip of tea. Like I say, start your painting relaxed. And I'm going to use this Rosemary & Co. Sable Blend. I really like this brush, actually. I'm going to get some more of these. It's a 402 series. It's not a complete sable brush, so they're not overly expensive. I use the Skoda Perlers a lot, but I quite like the amount of water they hold, these ones. So, right, let's grab a bit of tissue. And the tissue I have in my hand, which just helps to control the paper. So what colour am I using? Well, if I was going to give you the actual detailed breakdown of the colours, it would be something along the lines of this. Okay, we'll start with a palette, and in one of the wells there'll be a bit of leftover burnt umber mixed with something else, a little bit of neutral tint mixed with something else, and then roll that together, and then add some pyrrole orange. And how are you going to do that? It's just impossible. So it is impossible for me to tell you what colours I'm using. So I shall link this video to everyone who asks me that question, and I don't mind that being asked the question. It's absolutely perfectly fine. And now I've just added some red. Now, why did I add some red? Because I want to warm it up. And now I want to make it look more yellow, so I'm going to add some hands of yellow. And now it's too thick, so I've added some more water. And that's about what I want, I think. So there's the chimney. That's that little triangle I see. There's the light on the side of the building. And lots of paint on this brush. That's the building painted. And now I'm going to add a little bit of blue into that orange, which will create grey. And which blue? Doesn't matter, cobalt blue or ultramarine blue. So there's a grey mix. And if that runs down a little bit, that's fine. And now we've got a couple of options here. Is it beneficial to get the red roof next to it? I'll try it. I will just grey that off a little bit there, and under the eaves. And we want some wet into wet stuff here, so I've just mixed another colour there, just slightly warmer, which will be perhaps this wood frame in here. And now some pyrrole orange for that part of the rooftop. So obviously at some point it had a new roof, but they used different materials there. I shall just let that mix into there slightly. And before it dries, I want to get that little dark under the eaves there. And in there, and I'm leaving little bits of white paper to shine through. There's a little window there. Maybe we'll put a window in there. Maybe we could have a barn door there. I think there is actually a barn door there. So this is not far from where I live, this house. Changed hands recently. So. And embrace all the mistakes. Now we've got some little runbacks going on in there. This is just a little exercise, a little sketch. I'll use a bit of blue for these windows. Which is perhaps reflecting the light. Got the little rooftop. So I can perhaps just lift a little bit of paint off the side of that house there to put a bit of light on it. Maybe a little bit there. And to do that, I'm just taking my brush off and drying it. Okay. And a bit of texture on there. So I didn't intend this to end up being a full demo, but can't help myself. So there's the house. Now we need the background, which I could have painted the background first, but I'm just going to dry that off because I don't want the background to run into there. I'll use my hairdryer to speed things up. Let's have a look to see if we've got anything in the live chat. We've got 16 people watching live at the moment. That's good. But, I know with live streams it takes a while for things to build up. So we've got a comment there. Let's have a look. A little bit bigger. Hello, Hanny, joining us for the first time live. Thank you for your comment. Hopefully you're enjoying the demo and hopefully your watercolours are going well. There we go. Thank you very much for your comment. Much appreciated. So let's have a go with this background. And if you watch this not live, put a comment in where you'd like to see more live streams or the sort of content you like. So this is another brush I really like. This is an Escoda Versatile. It's quite long hairs here, but I think it makes me paint more random, I think. So let's have a go with this sky. So you notice here, look, all that mess in there. But what is that going to do? Basically, when I put some cobalt blue into that grey mix, it's just going to tone that blue down a bit. So let's put a little bit of blue up there. And I want some warmth on it, so why not use a bit of that? And just experiment and don't worry. And even if you get this far and then you destroy your painting, don't worry about it. It's just watercolour, it's just paper. And then have another go. So I know that's easy for me to say. I used to worry all the time about my paintings and get stressed about it. So what am I doing here? I'm using colours that are all in harmony with each other here. So browns, reds, oranges, and some muted blue. I'm not necessarily going for green, but let's do a green. So this hand's a yellow mixed with cobalt blue or any blue. Creates quite a nice warm orangey green, I find. More green, so add a bit more. Blue, bit of cadmium yellow, and just look at how loose I am painting and just really just putting it on there. And a bit of water, just splash it on there. And you wouldn't necessarily dream of doing stuff like that when you're a beginner, and I can understand why, because sometimes it just goes like a right mess, but we'll see. We'll let it dry. And honestly, it's confidence. Watercolour is all about confidence. Let's have another look at the chat. Anyone else put me a comment? Not as yet. And if you watch this afterwards, you can always join my membership. Like I say on these live streams, I apologise, I will be plugging my membership, but I honestly do believe it is great value for you and you will learn much quicker to paint watercolours confidently. Plus, I also want your money. We have the members forum on there, so that's a great way to say connect with other artists. So if I wanted to paint that church spiral here, the problem I've got is that the paper's too wet, that it'll just not keep its shape. So I need to either dry the paper or just wait and because it might be quite good to do it while the paper is just about damp, because I'll get a bit of a furry edge which will make it look like it's a long way away. So what I could do is paint that in a moment, paint the rest of it, and then paint that at the end. So that's what you have to do with watercolor. Think about, what can I paint? Can I paint this area next, paint that area next, and so on. So what have we got? Colors tend to be a little bit warmer as they're closer to you. So let's put this as a tree here, shall we say. There's a tree. And again, I'm using that Hansa yellow with a blue, but there's all sorts of other colours on the palette. So honestly, do not get too obsessed with wanting to mix my exact colours. I can't mix my exact colours. So this part is still a little bit damp, so we're going to get some mixing there. I've just added a bit more Hansa yellow, and this is really thick paint here. And I use Rembrandt watercolors normally. That's actually a tube of white paint, but I find these a great value for money. What other ones do I use? These come in a 20mm tube, and I buy them in that size because it's much better value for money. And so highly pigmented, they stay wet in the palette. I can't speak highly enough of these Rembrandt paints. Daniel Smith are great as well. More expensive in slightly smaller tubes, but again, very highly pigmented. So you do, I think it is worth buying good quality materials if you can afford it. But your paper should be your first priority, definitely. Let's have a tree there. So you can see here, look, I'm getting a soft edge there. And although I've got my reference here, I'm steering away from it quite a bit. And that's what you need to do with watercolor, is not get fixated with sticking to that reference. I do quite often. It's hard not to, but let watercolor take you where you want it to go. Does anyone put me a comment? Yes. Oop. So, are you using artist grade paint in those tubes? Yes, I'm not sure whether you've heard my answer a moment ago, but let's pop that down. That I used Cotman paints for a long time, which are student grade paints, and actually very good quality, I find. I now use artist quality paints, but my biggest breakthrough was when I changed from using good quality, I think Langton, Daler Rowley Langton paper, which was a pulp paper, had some I think cotton in it, but not 100% cotton. And then I moved to Saunders and Waterford 100% cotton, and wow, what a difference. I've got lots of scrap bits of we'll call it student quality watercolor paper, and I won't paint on it with watercolor because I know I just can't get the effects I want on it. So as soon as you can, move over to decent quality watercolor paper. That's your biggie. The brushes, the paints, not as important, but again, you don't need huge amounts of brushes. I'm going to do this painting with just this one brush, and what if I just use the Escoda brush? So you could just buy one brush if you're painting small, and I do recommend beginners to paint small, and then just add brushes to it as you go. So there's a tree there, and I want to add connection, so I'm going to just splash a bit of water on there and just let it melt into there, and vary the edges. Soft and a hard edge in there. What I do as well is I'll connect this tree to the house by just pulling that dark under the eaves there, and all the way through the painting what you're trying to do is not overwork it. This is all nice and fresh painted here, and that's what you got to try to avoid doing, overworking it. And the best way to avoid overworking it is to paint fairly quickly and not get bogged down with the details. So this should be dry enough now, and things off in the distance tend to have more blue in them because of all the particles in the sky between what you're seeing and so on. So there's the church. Didn't get that very straight. Slightly better. Probably want that to be a little bit lighter in value. So what I'll do is I'll just add some water to it and just wash it off. And that's what happens when you add water to your paintings. You dilute the painting. And I want soft edges off in the distance. So I'll just use a bit of water to create that mistiness. And have one of these spray bottles about, and then you can always just float a little bit of mist on there. And maybe it's quite a good idea to, when you paint, obviously if you're watching a demo as you're doing it, not necessarily a good idea, but if you're just painting, put some music on and just relax. That I used to listen to music when I painted, and you kind of almost just forget where you are, what you're doing, and you just paint freely. But there is a difference to my paintings, that if I just paint without doing a demo, they tend to be a little bit looser and freer if I'm talking through my process as I'm doing it. The church doesn't look quite right. Not sure about why that is. Let's bring the trees up a little bit. But beware of that. No, that doesn't look quite right. Why does it not look quite right? Probably just because I'm fussing over it. It probably looks absolutely fine. So, while this is still wet, what if I was to just lift out a little highlight in there for later? So we're nearly up to an hour. So my half an hour episode 1 has gone on a little bit long. We'll just finish with a cow in the field. I did do a demo the other day on membership. So I think if you join my website mailing list, which you can just go to the website and sign up for that at the bottom of the page, I think I send you a video on how to paint cows for free. So if you do subscribe to my newsletters, I do send free videos, as well as obviously plugs, adverts to get you to sign up. There's a cow. We did it the other day. It was something along the lines of, I'll have to watch it again. We do a circle, 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 smaller circle, and then 2 there, 1 there. Along the lines of that. That's why you need to practice. I have to watch my own video again, I think. Looks sort of like a cow. And we'll just anchor him to the ground. I've always struggled painting cows, which is why I did a detailed breakdown on how to paint them. just a little flick of the brush here. So this is what we call dry brush, very thick paint, and not a lot of water. We can just put a little bit of texture there just to anchor that cowl to the ground. And just a little bit of life in the sky. And this is a stage where you want to then just add a few little bit of detail, but try not to lose the freshness. You know, it's just a case of a little bit of a dark here and there, maybe. Some shutters on that window. So I had that tube of white gouache because I use that very naughtily. Not supposed to use white gouache for watercolours, people say. I don't worry about rules, particularly not by other people. I use that normally to put figures in. So we've got maybe the farmer here. Let me just make that brush into a point. There's his top of his head. Let's zoom in a little bit. And if I put a bit of white gouache and pick up a bit of cobalt blue, it will just give it a little bit of body. There's his overalls. And like I did with the Seago demo at the beginning of this half-hour session, which has ended up an hour, we just need to suggest. Armour there. And I normally include a little dog with the farmer, which is just a little tail and something that could be a dog. There we go. Ended up being a full demo, that one. Never mind. Sure you don't mind. Let's get rid of the reference picture. We don't need that. Not that. Get rid of that. And I keep my paints moist by, after my painting session, I give them a little spray with this bottle. If I know I'm not going to paint for a few days, I'll actually put a damp bit of tissue in there and then close the lid on. And these will still be quite moist when I come to paint. So join me on these live streams because I'll be giving away lots of little tips. And so let me know in the comments what you thought, whether you thought it was any good. Let's take this tape off. So that's quite nice. I shall stick that in my sketchbook, I think. But I do have some artwork available for sale on my website as well. But sometimes when things come out quite nice, it's quite nice to actually keep them. Mart Smith says, thanks for the demo. Watch lots of your YouTube demos. I'll be joining very shortly. Thank you very much, Martin. It'd be great to join us on the membership, and it'd be nice to meet some of you also on the live streams. That's on my memberships. I do live streams via Google Meet. So as I only record my video and my audio, but it's quite nice to obviously meet some of you in person, and you know, it's a great time to ask questions. Obviously you can ask questions in this chat as well, and so if you watch this later on, which quite possibly a lot of you will, because it was very short notice, because I only sort of thought about doing this live stream not that long ago, but I would like to do more of these also for my oil channel as well. So keep an eye out. I shall try and get to a routine of times that my membership live streams via Google Meet are normally at 6 p.m. in French time, which is normally in the morning for America. A lot of my members are from America. God bless America. But obviously 6 p.m. also suits European time and people in the UK. But I do appreciate a lot of Australians follow me as well, and people on that side of the world. So hence why I've done this live stream earlier in the day. And to be fair, it probably suits me quite well around that sort of time. So, but keep an eye out on my channel, subscribe to my YouTube channel, but also click the notification bell and make sure you click all, and then you'll get notified when I do a live stream and when I post new videos. So there you go. Thanks for joining me live, those of you who made it live, and appreciate those who watched the replay. And I shall see you on another live stream, and we'll try and work up to a daily episode, but that'll take a bit of time to get things in place so I can do that. But I do run 2 channels plus the membership area as well, so I shall do my best. Bye for now.